And I think this is the key to the greater things. If you look at the life of Jesus, when there were amazing miracles happening, you will find preceding that flow of power, even with the woman with the issue of blood, that he had spent amazing amounts of time with the Father. So when Jesus says, loving the Lord your God is the first and great command, he is revealing the apex of the Christian life. There are many commands in the scriptures, but the lawyer says, show me number one. What's the highest of the high? And that also reveals the fact that some things are more important to God than others. It'd be nice if every pastor in America could figure that one out. Certain sins are worse than others. There are certain things more important to God than other things. That's why this is the first and great command. And so when we fall in love with Jesus and we can truly utter from our lips, listen, not with religious repetition, but with true authenticity, Jesus, I love you, we have hit the mark. And the beautiful thing about the way the Lord has made this, is that whether you're the janitor in the church or the pastor, both can be successful. Whether you help usher in a stadium or you're the one leading a stadium, glory can be yours. I think one of the dreams in my heart for our students is that while they're mopping and cleaning the sanctuary and going low, that they're fellowshipping with the Lord while they're doing it, and a tear dripping down their cheek. Not because of anything other than this. They are in love. They are in love. Let's look at Psalm 91. I want to talk to you about the presence of God and intimacy. Could you signal me when I have 5 minutes to go? Could you? Yeah. I forgot your name, sorry. But I remember you, I love you. I just forgot my iPad, so I just want to make sure I stay with the time. I didn't need an iPad today. Psalm 91. Ooh, this one's good. Holy Spirit, speak, burn in us, reveal to us the secret to your presence. You ready? Are you ready? Talk to me. I can't hear you there, Pastor Scott. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. How many of you have been claiming Psalm 91 in this season? Probably all of you, right? Especially when COVID broke out. The whole church was claiming it. It's wonderful. However, the condition for the entirety of the psalm and all of the promises rest in verse 1. If you don't get verse 1, you don't get verses 2 through 16. It is the key. It is the ATM code. If you'd like to give me yours, I'd be happy to take your code. Have you ever heard somebody say, I don't need to pray? I pray all the time. How many of you have heard that one? Okay, that's not in the Bible. The abiding life, according to verse 1, look carefully, the abiding life, which is John 15, only belongs to those who make a dwelling in secret. How many of you have heard the name Ralph Wilkerson? Anybody ever heard that name? was a real friend and almost like a pastor to Catherine. He pastored a church called Melodyland in Anaheim. He helped dedicate ORU, was on the board there for years, a mighty man of God, had probably the most prolific church during the Jesus movement, along with what was going on with Chuck Smith there in Southern Cal. He was the first one to have Catherine out. He was the first one to go get the shrine for her. He allowed her to use his building for the meeting she had at Melodyland. He really impacted Mario Murillo. Mario was in church there as well. A mighty man of God. He became a dear friend of mine. And he told me something I never forgot. Prepare your heart more diligently than your sermons. Prepare your soul more diligently than your notes. There's a story of an old preacher, I should say a young polished preacher. This actually happened. They were at I think a businessmen's convention, a Christian one, back in the Jesus movement. And this preacher got up and recited by memory Psalm 23. A young guy, very polished and amazing orator. And he began, the Lord is my shepherd. Just amazing speaking capability. And the crowd wasn't moved at all. They just stared at him. Later on, they invited an old Pentecostal country preacher who had no formal training. And he read the 23rd Psalm with his country accent. Had no training to speak. And people started weeping. So the young preacher pulled him to the side afterwards, after the banquet there behind the curtain. He said, Pastor, can I talk to you? When I spoke so beautifully, they just stared at me. And there you got up in your own little way, read the same song, and they all started weeping. That old preacher told him, oh son, you know the psalm, I know the shepherd. You know the psalm, I know the shepherd. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide. Notice here that God demands a dwelling in secret, not a visitation. I feel like I've traveled with some very effective evangelists over the years. The two who've most impacted me would be my father-in-law and Reinhardt. Very similar routines prior to service. Starting at about 10, my father-in-law would shut down, and you really couldn't get to him except for about 2 people. And sometimes the miracles would start right at about 10 in his room in the hotel. People sick on our team would get healed when he started praying. He'd pray from about 10 to 4:30. Not stomping, shouting, because it's hard to do that for 6 hours. Some prayer meetings I go to, they need Gatorade. I'm like, man alive. I mean, I'm all about prophetic declaration and all that, but after a while, you just need to commune. That's your nourishment. Same thing with Reinhardt. At 12, shut down. Wasn't a faith issue. But they understood the power of heaven's atmosphere and understood the weight of the responsibility of people coming into a room in those types of meetings, not to merely be inspired to go along with their week or accomplish their dreams, though there's nothing wrong with that. But when people come to our types of meetings, they come with real life and death needs. It is healthy to realize that. And so they would dig out time in secret, realizing that verse 1, the second portion, would be the promise if they met the condition, that if they dwelled in secret, they would abide during the day. And I think this is the key to the greater things. One of them, if not the most important one. If you look at the life of Jesus, when there were amazing miracles happening, you will find preceding that flow of power, even with the woman with the issue of blood, that he had spent amazing amounts of time with the Father. This is not a lack of faith, neither is it religion. One day I was in my house, I have a little prayer room. It was Tuesday, and when Jesus Image began, Tuesdays were my prayer day. I would start at about 5. Nobody knew us back then. I just wanted to be with the Lord, and I would pray till about 5 or 6. One day I came out of prayer, just, with a tear going down my cheek, still feeling the Lord saying, please stay, please stay, please stay. If you give Jesus 6 hours, he's gonna ask for 7. It's nothing religious, nothing mean about it. It's just because he loves us that much. I promise you. Have you ever been so stuck in worship that you just feel like you could go forever and you wanna go forever and you feel like he wants you to go forever? In the atmosphere of his presence, when the Lord's pouring out his Spirit, how many times have we just sat in his glory? Well, he loves it as well. And so I walked out of my room just filled with the Holy Spirit. Not a worry in the world. Heaven was so real. Jesus just so real. And one of my family members, not immediate, was sitting on the couch. And the person said, what are you doing in there all that time? I said, I'm with the Lord. And the person said, don't you know there's nothing you can do to get him to love you anymore? You're under grace. Why are you in there so long? Oh my. No, thank God I had been with the Lord. Sometimes we rebuke people with the right content, but not the right heart. The filter matters. So I just turned around and I said, oh, no, you're missing the point. His love's not in question. Mine is. Mine is. And back to the grace thing. That's the whole point of his grace. To draw me close, not to glory in position alone.